Kit in the St. Lawrence Seaway is won the driver's life, especially Ayrton Senna. First in 1988 and a commanding lead last year until his engine gave up. But although he's critical of this year's McLaren, he's in pole position again for the 30th time in 37 races. Gerhard Berger's yet to win for McLaren, but he's on the front row of the grid again. Happier that the car fits him better now, but looking ragged in practice in comparison with Senna's smoothness. But can world champion Alain Prost repeat his win in Brazil for Ferrari? To win, you have to finish, and he's only done that twice this year. But third on the grid, he's in the best place to attack the McLarens. The Montreal circuit is notorious for fickle weather. It was dry on Friday, but yesterday's driving rain meant it was Friday's times that decided the grid positions. And that certainly didn't suit Nigel Mansell, whose dry time possibilities were ruined by a puncture. With only 3 points so far, he desperately needs success in Canada.
Good indeed, as you said, in some parts of the track it is dry, but most of it's wet. Everyone, as we look out of the commentary box here, opposite the pits, seems to have the chunky wet weather tyres on.
Yes, the conditions around 3/4 of the circuit are very wet indeed, and in fact that's a problem because there's so much mist from the tyres, the water going up in the air, it's lingering, it's not disappearing.
Well, the race just minutes away. A good time to take a break. We'll be back with engines revving.
Cronaca diretta il Gran Premio del Canada, 22esima edizione, quinta prova del campionato del mondo 1990. È l'11ª volta che si corre su questo circuito di Montreal, ricavato sull'isola di Notre Dame sul fiume San Lorenzo. Una corsa che purtroppo si presenta sfavorevole per quel che riguarda i tempi, che il campionato del mondo di automobilismo si è ritagliato nel grande avvenimento dei campionati del mondo di calcio, e perché è piovuto poco fa, la pista è bagnata. Io darei subito alla linea Zermiani per sapere i piloti cosa stanno decidendo di fare a proposito dei pneumatici. Farselo col pioggia o col asciutto?
Ecco, questo è proprio il problema chiave di questa gara, come lo è stato poi, se ti ricorderai, anche lo scorso anno. Poco prima dello schieramento è piovuto e parecchio, quindi tutti hanno montato le cosiddette gomme rain, gomme da pioggia. Cos'è successo? Adesso si sta aprendo, addirittura un timido sole sta facendo capolino, ci sono degli sprazzi di sereno, anche se dalla parte est c'è parecchio nuvolaglia pesante. Quindi il problema è proprio questo, sapere che cosa fare. Se partire e rischiare, partire con le slick in modo da avere poi con pista bagnata, asciutta, la possibilità di scattare immediatamente e prendere un bel margine, oppure attendere che cambi tutto. Però se contemporaneamente o quasi contemporaneamente tutte le macchine dovessero entrare in box, vi faccio pensare cosa può succedere, quindi anche proprio in termini di durata di gara il discorso diventa veramente difficile. Ma andiamo un po' a esaminare la situazione. Questa mattina al warm-up c'è stato un quarto d'ora di ritardo, tanto per darvi l'idea dell'organizzazione che va man mano degradandosi come stile, diciamo. Un tombino era staccato, non se ne erano accorti, hanno dovuto saldarlo, quarto d'ora che non hanno fortunatamente recuperato per la partenza, quindi la partenza sarà data alle ore 13 locali precise. Altro discorso, per quanto riguarda la McLaren, questa mattina nel warm-up avevano problemi, e sono i soliti problemi della McLaren, di questo cambio che non funziona a dovere. Vi ricorderete anche l'ultima volta non era che Senna risparmiasse andando piano con la Tyrrell di Alesi che stava arrivandogli addosso, facendogli sentire il fiato sul collo. No, era proprio che la macchina aveva la seconda e la quarta che non andavano. Oggi la stessa cosa, tutte e due le macchine provate da Senna, la prima usciva. Quindi adesso hanno probabilmente anche risolto il problema, perché vediamo la faccia di Ron Dennis qui di fronte a noi piuttosto serena. Per quanto riguarda la Ferrari, Prost è caricatissimo, l'abbiamo visto correre piuttosto bene determinato, senza paura di pioggia. Abbiamo visto su terreno bagnato comportarsi egregiamente a pochi centesimi dalla McLaren. Ovviamente quei pochi centesimi sono dovuti probabilmente all'attitudine di Senna di guidare con pioggia. Ecco, mentre sto parlando ricomincia a piovere, tanto per dirvi come ci sarà questa altalenante situazione che creerà anche parecchi problemi. Visto che parliamo di pioggia, Piquet diceva qui andiamo benissimo con pioggia e con bagnate. Infatti i tempi lo dimostrano, sia Nannini che Piquet sono piuttosto avanti nello schieramento, come avrei agio poi di dimostrare con lo schieramento della warm-up di questa mattina e soprattutto delle prove. Cosa dicevamo? Per Piquet diceva però noi abbiamo ormai deciso e preparato la macchina da pioggia, però da pioggia anche piuttosto consistente, perché c'è anche questo da dire, queste regolazioni sono talmente sofisticate che non è che uno prepara la macchina solo con pioggia genericamente, la deve preparare anche se la pioggia è consistente oppure se è appena una pioggia diciamo battente, ma in maniera molto normale. Cosa succede adesso? Tutta la parte esterna alla pista è imbibita di acqua. Nelle prove di questa mattina con le categorie cosiddette minori ci sono state parecchie uscite di pista, le macchine sono rientrate e hanno portato fango. Effettivamente la situazione è critica, ci verranno parecchi testacoda, c'è da giurarci. Per quanto riguarda la Williams è andata benissimo fino alle prove, dopodiché ha cominciato a lamentare di guai, soprattutto guarda caso Patrese, anche nel warm-up di questa mattina ha avuto due lunghi, non è molto a posto, mentre Butzen dice che ha trovato la situazione ideale per quanto riguarda la corsa. Caffi lamenta male la schiena per una botta rimediata ieri, niente di grave. Alboreto diceva che aveva un calo di pressione alle gomme, in effetti la macchina ha una gomma forata, non se ne erano accorti e ha problemi. I freni vengono sottoposti a notifica. Per quanto riguarda l'altro discorso, è il discorso benzina, bisogna starci un po' attenti, stanno facendo i rabbocchi adesso perché siamo al limite. Infatti Piquet diceva le nostre macchine sono privilegiate in questo senso perché consumeranno meno delle McLaren. Parlando delle McLaren ovviamente sta pensando al podio e effettivamente parlando anche con i responsabili Benetton e con Nannini stesso dicevano questa è la gara dove potremo comportarci bene. Sì.
Ti interrompo per spiegare ai telespettatori che quelli che stiamo vedendo sono i giri record di Senna e forse faranno vedere anche quelli di Berger, registrati venerdì quando la pista era asciutta e quando Senna ha fatto il tempo record di 1:20.399. Vai pure avanti.
Niente, adesso dicevamo che stanno sgombrando la pista, quindi regolarissimo per quanto riguarda il discorso dell'orario, nessun altro tipo di problema. Abbiamo visto c'era Mansell che aveva alcuni problemi ma pare risolti, stanno isolando tutte le varie giunzioni elettriche perché con questa umidità effettivamente c'è anche questo pericolo. Ricordate ad esempio lo scorso praticamente all'Arini con la Osella, allora proprio perché
Bruno Giacomelli, al quale poi affideremo il microfono per illustrarci nel giro di ricognizioni quali sono le caratteristiche di questo tracciato oltre 190 all'ora, ma vediamo subito, mentre intanto le immagini continuano a essere quelle dei giri veloci di Senna prima, di Berger adesso, primo e secondo tempo, quindi prima fila per Senna, 6ª pole position, e per Berger, il suo compagno di squadra con la McLaren no. Berger stamani col bagnato è 35.571, precedendo addirittura di quasi 2 secondi Butzen, vincitore lo scorso anno sul bagnato in questo stesso Gran Premio del Canada. Secondo e terzo Senna, seguito da Prost, Piquet, Mansell, Alesi, Suzuki, Nannini, Patrese, che ha il suo 197esimo Gran Premio con la partenza di oggi. Lo schieramento di partenza, dunque, come vi dicevamo, prima fila, terza per Piquet e Butzen, quarta per Mansell e Alesi, quinta per Patrese e Modena, sesta per Warwick e Danelli, settima per Nakajima e Alboreto, prossimo papà, diceva poco fa un collega. Quindi abbiamo all'ottava fila per Grugliano e Suzuki, Pirro Larini, Foyt Cleto, Bernard Capelli, De Cesaris, Caffi. Vedete un primo piano prima di Ayrton Senna, adesso di Gerhard Berger, quindi Alain Prost, nell'asciutto perché la vettura sembrava molto equilibrata, c'è grande entusiasmo qui, come sapete la colonia italiana in Canada e anche a Montreal è nutritissima, quindi moltissimi tifosi già estasiati per la vittoria della squadra italiana nel campionato del mondo di calcio contro l'Austria e che spera adesso che si ripeta il risultato per merito della Ferrari. È una speranza naturalmente che tutti noi abbiamo, anche a Maranello aspettano che dopo tante buone prove il tutto si concreti in un risultato positivo e in un successo. Giacomelli, allora dici un po', qui siamo alle prime due curve dopo il traguardo.
Intanto ciao a tutti, sì, qua siamo nelle due curve che vengono dopo la partenza. La partenza è stata spostata, diciamo, rispetto a qualche anno fa, era in un punto diverso prima. Bisogna dire che la pista proprio in queste due perché c'è un asfalto molto fine e col bagnato ovviamente ancora di più, dunque le macchine sono veramente molto difficili da controllare. È un circuito, come dicevamo prima, piuttosto veloce, comunque composto anche da una parte abbastanza lenta se vogliamo essere precisi. È un circuito dove le condizioni di grip sono molto precarie perché durante l'anno non si svolge nessuna attività agonistica, dunque la pista specialmente all'inizio è molto sporca e ci vogliono 3 o 4 giorni prima che venga pulita. La pioggia poi contribuisce a far sì che questo lavoro di pulitura sia rallentato.
Tanto è vero, a proposito del grip di cui si parlava, che molti piloti, a cominciare da Senna, hanno fatto i migliori tempi con le gomme da gara e non con le gomme di qualifica. Come vedete il gruppo dei 26 partenti si sta avvicinando alla curva che porta in zona traguardo. Tra poco dunque schierati per 70 giri del circuito di 4.390 metri per un totale di 307 km e 300 più il giro di ricognizione che è appena stato effettuato. È una pista che oltre, come diceva Giacomelli, le carenze in fatto di aderenza rispetto alle migliori piste del campionato del mondo di Formula 1, presenta anche caratteristiche che sono favorevoli alle vetture più potenti, con i freni più efficienti e con i motori più parchi, nel senso che bisogna partire con molto carburante perché i consumi sono molto elevati, essendo lunghi anche i tratti in cui si riesce a dare la massima potenza. Le telecamere sono montate sulle Brabham e sulle Williams. Questa è la telecamera sulla vettura di Stefano Modena, è la Brabham. Attenzione dunque, si sta completando lo schieramento e tra poco la fase più emozionante, il momento del via, il momento della partenza di questo Gran Premio che vi ricordo è la quinta prova del Mondiale di Formula 1 in queste riprese dall'alto.
Adesso c'è una leggera pioggerella che cade, dunque è una situazione molto difficile perché ho visto che le Pirelli stanno usando un tipo di pneumatico misto.
Ecco, intanto Zerbiani ci dice comunque che il direttore di corsa ha annunciato gara bagnata. Poi parleremo anche di questo, adesso un attimo di attenzione, aspettiamo il
Senna, as usual, has got the advantage of pole position. Watch for the lights. Any second now, the Canadian, and Berger creeps ahead. Berger almost jumped the start there, and he's off into the corner first, and he knows Senna gets through. So it's Senna leading, Berger is in second place, Nannini is in third place ahead of Prost, and Alesi is challenging the Ferrari ahead of Nelson Piquet. Both the Williams have dropped back. There's a traffic jam, but with fighting for traction, lap in the 70-lap race, followed by his teammate, McLaren Honda. And there you can see Pierluigi Martini in the Minardi. He has spun off. Will he be able to get the car started before they come round again? So it's still Senna, Berger, Nannini and Lacey up into 4th position, Piquet up into 5th, Prost down to 6th, Boutsen 7th, Mansell in 8th position, and he started 7th. And so, as I said, Ayrton Senna has got the advantage, but the interesting thing is how well Nannini is up in the Benetton 4.
Yes, indeed, and another charging start by young Jean Alesi, who was very sensible there. That was a good charge. There was a little bit of caution there as he went through the first couple of corners and got him up to 4th place. Very cautious opening few corners by Alain Prost. He's dropped back to 6th place, but that's not too far now. But the interesting thing in this race is going to be when they change tires. Now you see on the higher part of the circuit, it's almost dry. Then as they come down the hill, the lower part of the circuit, the water is still lying a lot. So the timing of the, assuming that we get no more rain in the near future, which is by no means a certainty, but the circuit is going to dry out fairly quickly. Remember, these big cars move a lot of water. As Senna leads from Berger, the 2 McLarens, the Benetton and the yellow flag, and Martini has they've still not moved his car. That was there from just after the start, the first corner.
And look how Jean Alesi is going in 4th position. Now these conditions must have been virtually perfect for him and the Tyrrell. The Ford DFR V8 has got less power than the Ford V8 of the Benetton of Nannini in 3rd position, and of course from the Honda engines of the McLaren of Senna, who is leading, and Berger, who is in 2nd position. But it doesn't matter so much in wet conditions like this. Senna is very much a rainmaster. He won his first Grand Prix in Portugal in appalling conditions. But it looks to me as though Nannini 3rd and Alesi 4th are closing up a bit on Berger 2nd. There is Piquet in 5th position. Prost is 6th. Boutsen is 7th. Nigel Mansell is 8th. Patrese is 9th. And then either Derek Warwick or Martin Donnelly, I didn't get a close enough look at the car, is up into 10th place.
A shot of Prost just locking his brakes there over the bumps. Remember, the surface is extremely bumpy here in Canada. The hard freeze-up that they get all winter plays havoc with road surfaces, and the organisers have promised to do something about it for next year. So, Senna leading, but not really putting away. Gerhard Berger holding him well, as is Nannini. They can't really run much closer than this in these conditions with all the spray that's going on, unless they're moving in to make a challenge. So fairly stalemate with the front 4. Yellow flag still showing. Well, they've moved Martini's car, but really that's not a safe place to leave a racing car, and the marshals are going to have to do something about that. Otherwise, I would think that the Carter Course will have to stop the race, or be very inclined to stop it unless they can get that car further out of the way.
4 seconds covering the first 4 at this stage of the race. Berger is certainly not dropping back, and nor for that matter is Nannini or Alesi. Just 4 seconds over the first 4. The Benettons, who have had a lot of work done on the chassis and aerodynamics, going well, and Thierry Boutsen starting to reel in Alain Prost, and for that matter Derek Warwick is reeling in Riccardo Patrese. So Warwick in the V12 Lamborghini powered Lotus, which has got a good power spread, good for this sort of circuit, and nice smooth torque. The power doesn't come in with a terrific rush, and that's what you want in conditions like this. And last year, of course, Derek Warwick led the Canadian Grand Prix for about 15 minutes of glory. That was in the Arrows. So there is Senna. Now let's see what the gap is. He looks in his mirror to see where his teammate Berger is. You can see there. Now look, there was the Austrian in the background, who was 2nd in the Brazilian Grand Prix and is 2nd in the World Championship. Senna, of course, very much has to be the favourite for this race. He won in 1988. He was leading after an absolutely brilliant drive last year, having changed from wets to slicks to wets again, tyres I'm talking about, when his Honda engine let go. Now we're riding with the only Brabham in the race, that of Stefano Modena, because unfortunately the young Australian David Brabham did not qualify. Patrese and Derek Warwick So that is Stefano Modena, and he's ahead of Martin Donnelly. And on lap 4 now, the Canadian Grand Prix, Ayrton Senna leading. Berger is in second position. Nannini is third. In fourth position behind Nannini, Jean Alesi. In fifth position, it is Nelson Piquet. In sixth position, it is Alain Prost. Seventh is Thierry Boutsen. Eighth is Nigel Mansell. In 10th place, it is Riccardo Patrese. 11th is Derek Warwick. In 12th position, it's Modena, and Martin Donnelly is 13th. Look at the circuit. You can see, and they're lapping in about 1 minute 40.3 now, which is 20 seconds slower than the qualifying time, and of course a good deal slower than Ayrton Senna's lap record, 1 minute 24.9. Now look, you see that's Nannini, who is definitely pulling away from Alesi, but equally definitely closing up on Gerhard Berger, as Piquet still in 5th position goes through. Now there's the brilliant young Frenchman. He's already got 2 second places this year. He's on Pirelli tyres, unlike the majority of the competitors who use Goodyears.
You can see the line starting to dry on the wetter part of the track, and the thinking driver will be bearing in mind that tactics are much more likely to win this race than pure fast driving. Alesi really shows a tremendous shot of the car where he flicks the car into the corner. Even in these wet, treacherous conditions, you can see the lightning quick car control. He flicks the wheel as he turns in, the back starts to hop, and he catches it, and he's got the car set up for the corner. Looking a little bit lonely as he chases Alesi, and the leading 3 now beginning to go away, and Thierry Boutsen, who's been climbing all over the back of Alain Prost ever since the end of the first lap of the race, has got past him, so he moves into 6th place. And the conditions absolutely critical, the tyre change. More important for the drivers to be putting their efforts into thinking out the tactics of this race, because remember, the circuit now on this section is fairly dry. And I would think that the right tactics would be to be changing very soon indeed. The circuit's drying quickly, and the line is nearly dry even on the wet bits.
I do not know why the course car is out on the circuit. There's no obvious reason that we know of. We've not been given any information. It's a terrifying experience for the drivers, of course, when they come hurtling round a corner at Formula 1 speeds and find a touring car in front of them. But Gerhard Berger is getting the hammer down now. You can see that he's significantly closer to Ayrton Senna. In fact, the gap is down to just 1 second, and we're on lap 6 of this 70-lap race now. Both the McLarens easing away from Nannini in 3rd position. There is the gap between the Benetton Ford and the Tyrrell Ford. And it's significant, I think, that John Barnard is here in Canada. John Barnard being the man who designed the originally all-conquering McLaren, then went to Ferrari to design the basic car that's being used now, but is now with Benetton. So now on lap 6 of the Canadian Grand Prix with a 70-lap race, in the lead is Ayrton Senna, chased very closely by his teammate Gerhard Berger, then the Benetton of Nannini, Alesi's Tyrrell Ford, Piquet's Benetton, and Boutsen's Williams.
33 secondi dall'inizio della gara.
Un'ottima prestazione, del resto.
You look down on the hairpin now and you see all the first 3 together in the same shot. But Senna, with no spray on his visor, nobody to fight with in front of him, and he can pace himself, and you can see, as James has said, how there is a significantly dry line developing now. The tyres may soon be overheating, in which case it'll be changed to slicks.
There's definitely a chance for to get into the pits right now. Sooner, and Alesi doing the intelligent thing there, moving off onto the wet bit to try and cool down his extra soft compound wet weather tyres, because they overheat on a dry road. And what a gaggle behind. Tremendous train of cars. This is the midfield battle.
Livellate di più,
Intanto avete visto Alboreto che ha superato Brouillard.
Nakajima è andato sulla terra con la seconda delle terre. Vedevamo il gruppone, è andato alla pista bagnata. La pista...
PK and Thierry Boutin are the top runners. Alan, you mentioned about the Benetton chassis being such a good one. By gee, they're running well tonight.
Yes, they are. It's if you've got your chassis working well, you can really afford to give away a few horsepower on this circuit. It's a real good little driver's circuit.
Starting to dry out though, so pit stops not far away.
No, they're starting to emerge. There's a dry line emerging, so I would imagine we'll start getting into some pit stops very shortly.
Although looking at that picture, quite wet there, but the other part of the circuit looks like it is drying pretty quickly.
Yeah, but as you can see, the two black marks, there's a distinct dry line emerging. The fact that he's pulling out and passing off that line, the track is drying out. But all right, let's go back live now to James and Murray.
With its forward engine, and Nannini has gone. I can tell you that Alessandro Nannini has passed Gerhard Berger and gone up into second place on lap 8. I wish we could see it. I wish you could see it. But meantime, they're all streaking through now and trying to get past Olivier Griard, who continues to hold them up. You see, there is Nakajima, De Cesaris. Behind De Cesaris, Gregor Wojtek, who's well up in the Onyx car, having out-qualified his teammate, JJ Leto. But up at the front now on lap 8, which is over 10th distance, it is in the lead, Ayrton Senna. In second place is Alessandro Nannini, and there is the leader. Now there is Ayrton Senna. Now let's look back and see how far Alessandro Nannini is, the man who won the Japanese... No, Berger is still there in second position. There's been a change on the far side of the circuit, so Senna leads. Berger in second position. There is Nannini. Now, here is a replay of what I do not know, but we'll soon find out. It's Modena in the Brabham, and ahead of him is the Lotus Lamborghini of Martin Donnelly, no, Derek Warwick. And so, wrong information there from the far side of the circuit. It is still Ayrton Senna leading in the McLaren Honda, and you can see as they race alongside the Olympic rowing strip, the moisture coming off the rear wings.
It's definitely slick weather. The line is quite dry enough now to be using slicks, to be learning the circuit, and anybody who changes now will have a big advantage over those who leave it for 2 or 3 laps. They will be going a lot quicker. For sure, slicks would be a quicker overall lap time in these conditions than the wet tyres that they're using now, and I'm very surprised that drivers of this level of experience, somebody hasn't clocked it and gone in, because if he could, and there's the fastest lap for Senna. Still pretty greasy and slippery out there, but the slicks will give just as good grip as the wets once they're hot, and with half a dry circuit on which to get them hot, that would not be a problem.
Well, Alessandro Nannini has my admiration. He's holding on extremely well. The nimble Benetton, which is designed by Rory Byrne, but I'm quite sure has had considerable input. There it is from John Barnard. Is not suffering from a down-on-power Ford V8 engine in comparison with the V10 Hondas of the McLarens in front of him because of the circuit conditions. And the handling of the car has been vastly improved. Alessandro Nannini never really felt he won the Japanese Grand Prix. He won it by default with both Prost and Senna going out. This is last year, of course. And all right, he won fair and square. The man who gets the checkered flag first is the winner. But he said, I was not happy to win like that. He wants to win this one. But first of all, of course, he's got to get past Berger and Senna. And in the background, it's still John Alesi. We are on lap 10, which is 1/7 distance in this 70-lap race. And as you watch Ayrton Senna, it's still second. There he is, Gerhard Berger. It's still third, Alessandro Nannini in the leading V8 powered car, the Benetton. Still fourth, number 4, John Alesi, the Frenchman in the Tyrrell Ford. In fifth position, it's still the second Benetton of Nelson Piquet. Sixth is Thierry Boutsen. Seventh is Alain Prost. Eighth is Nigel Mansell. So the Ferraris are a real disappointment. And you can see Riccardo Patrese there with the Lotus Lamborghini of Derek Warwick behind him. And behind Derek Warwick is his teammate Martin Donnelly, driving in a Canadian Grand Prix for the first time. Here's Riccardo.
Derek Warwick going well, and quite frankly, the Lamborghini engine, I would think, must be the envy of most of the drivers in these conditions. The V12 engine has a nice big power band, comes in nice and smoothly and sensibly with a steady build-up of power. No big bang as it comes in to unstick the car. Having said that, of course, and there's one of the Williams in for 6, and that's Boutsen, who is no...
It's Eric Bernard in the Lola Lamborghini, the Frenchman. He was well down the field. He didn't qualify particularly well, and he's obviously effectively out of the race.
Yes, he was in for other work. He was putting on more wet. But Patrese, of course, the Renault engine, having said high praise for the Lamborghini engine, the Renault engine is particularly smooth.
And we've just been given news that Gerhard Berger, has a 60-second penalty. Now, for jumping the start, do you remember when they got away, I said it looked to me as though Gerhard Berger was jumping the start. He has, and into the pits for tyres comes Patrese.
Yes, well, finally the flurry of tyre changes has started, albeit rather late, I would have said. I think anybody who'd changed a couple of laps ago would have been the ones who were really right. Berger's start, he clearly did jump it. He lifted off, but he gave it a proper move, and he moved a good 2 car lengths forward from his grid. Although he'd come off the power at the time when the light went green, he quite clearly jumped the start. Berger's been, to be fair to him, that's I think it's a result that he must have gambled for, because Berger's made a lot of flyer starts over the last couple of seasons. Very impressive and exciting it's been to watch, but he does tend to second guess the green light. And here we have a replay, and I saw a bit of car flying up in the air there somewhere. Somebody clipped something. Yes, the front wing is on the ground, and that's Bernard,
who of course has been into the pits. So now we have a new second place man this time, and it is Alessandro Nannini is up into second place. Berger is effectively out of the race unless something unbelievably dramatic happened. And there is Alesi in third position. Piquet now in fourth place, and you can see how close he is. And that means to say, as Piquet challenges and goes through and takes Alesi, the Benetton Fords are in second and third places. This race is turning out to be very interesting.
Yes, and looking at that is bad news for the Pirelli runners, because that looked to me very much as if Alesi's wet tyres have absolutely had it. Very soft compound, I've no doubt, and I think that the dry track has chewed him up, but that really should encourage him to get in and get on to drive, because this is clearly the wrong tactics to be hanging around there on wets on a dry track. It really seems that the vast majority of drivers in this race are making an elementary mistake, including Ayrton Senna, who we look at now, who still hasn't changed when he should have done it, certainly 2 laps ago or more.
Senna moves inside the very unhappy-looking Olivier Griard, who, after 11 laps, has been lapped. And look at that, that's one of the footwork arrows, and one of the Delaras. I'm sorry, I can't tell you which until I see the driver of them.
And Senna's into the pits. Well, he may well get away with this, because he'll outdrive the others, as we know, and of course the others haven't had the brains to come in, so I level criticism at Senna, but the only thing in his defence is he may have said, well, if the others aren't coming in, I might as well stay out. So good, tremendous stop too by the McLaren team. Got a wheel spin, not much grip for Senna getting away, but a bit of a messy departure, but he got away with it. Now, we will have a look at Senna's lap time, and I would think that his first flying lap will be his fastest lap of the race so far by some way, and that will underline the fact that he should have been on 6 earlier.
And of course, you're looking at a new leader, Alessandro Nannini, the man who won the Japanese Grand Prix, still on the original tyres which he started this race, is leading here in Canada. Derek Warwick comes in. So now we've had Patrese in for tyres, we've had Berger in, and Senna, and Piquet, and Warwick. They're all coming in and leaving at great velocity, and it's going to completely transform the race. Now, Senna's time of just under 8 seconds was a magnificent stop and a real credit to the McLaren team.
Yes, we didn't get a time on the Lotus stop, but it looked a bit of a mess. You see an action replay now, and that was just the shot we saw before as Piquet accelerated away, getting a lot more traction than Jean Alesi, who really should be in to put on slick tyres now. So we wait with bated breath for Senna's first flying lap to complete his first flying lap, to see what time that is.
And you're watching Alessandro Nannini across the line now. Hopefully we'll see Ayrton Senna soon. Meantime, here is Alesi, who has and into the pits he comes, and Boutsen. In fact, they're all coming in, and Boutsen and Prost. So there's the Tyrrell, there's the Williams, there's the Ferrari, and we're staying with Thierry Boutsen as he does his pit stop. Now there is Alain Prost, and Jean Alesi, don't forget, is in. And this looks to me, it's even better than the McLaren stop of Ayrton Senna, 7.5 seconds. That is dynamite.
Yes, and the slow thing about that stop was actually Prost's departure, because the Ferrari mechanics had the wheels changed as quick as I've ever seen 4 wheels changed. Something under 5 seconds they were ready, and then it took a couple of seconds to get the car off the jacks and for Prost to get away. But spectacular pit stop by Ferrari there.
Yeah, and this is the interesting thing now, is how long is it going to be before Alessandro Nannini, number 19 in the green Benetton there, the Italian, how long is it going to be before he comes in to change tyres? Alesi is in second place now, or was, because now Senna is back there. Nigel Mansell moves up into third position, yet to come in. Alesi in fourth place, Prost in fifth position, and it's going to take some time for the race to settle down, as up to his teammate Gerhard Berger, who I remind you has got a 60-second penalty, but who has been in for tyres, comes Ayrton Senna. Now, is Berger going to move over and let Senna through? Is he? He is most certainly not. Absolutely together now. Berger well down in the race, of course, because of the combination of the 60-second penalty for jumping the start and his pit stop. And he passed Ayrton Senna. We didn't see that. That was a replay.
Well, of course, that Senna is on cold tyres, having just come out of the pits. He's now had a lap in which to warm them up. He's following Berger. It'll be interesting to see. He's got to tiptoe a little bit here, because although there's a dry line, if he gets off it at all on those slick tyres, it'll all get a bit exciting. Good shot of Berger here, working away in the cockpit, tremendous concentration, fairly light control on the steering at this stage. And there's a set of wets just come off, very hot, steam pouring off them, well over the boiling point of water.
About 15, is Nannini coming in now, or is he not? The gap is 17 seconds, or was, between the man you're watching, Alessandro Nannini, on his original tyres, and Ayrton Senna, who has changed and is up to racing speed.
Yes, and his first flying lap was 7 seconds quicker than his previous lap on, as Nannini goes into the pits, albeit a little bit late. And Senna some 7 seconds faster than his fastest lap on wets just then, his first flying lap on dry tyres, and that really, I think, says that he was quite a bit, 2 or 3 laps, or certainly 2 laps too late.
And this is an awful stop. It's really hampering Nannini, 13 seconds. So on the pit stop alone, Ayrton Senna has gained 5 seconds. The gap was 16 seconds. And of course, Nannini had to slow down to come into the pits. and go and speed up again. So I'm expecting Ayrton Senna to be in the lead, but meantime, there is Gerhard Berger, the Austrian, who is in second position in the World Championship. He's pulled well away from Ayrton Senna. Now this is a surprise because Senna has certainly got his tyres up to racing temperatures now, and there is no doubt at all about the fact maybe Gerhard Berger is thinking, I've got nothing to lose, I might as well go for it. Go for it being the lap record in his case, and he's closing up now Stefano Modena in the Brabham.
Senna certainly isn't in a hurry at the moment because Berger's still out there and Wets and him in sight. We're in car with Stefano Modena here. He qualified pretty well, about 10th in the Brabham. Quick part of the circuit and pulling up now, looking to get to overtake, but the car went into the pit, so that gave Stefano a clear run. And I think he's still on wets, and that surely is a tactical error. But going back to Senna, he's in no hurry whatsoever now. He knows the situation. He can see Berger, who's his competition on the road, and that was Senna, I think, going past, or was it Berger? Berger being ahead on the road. But also, he knows that Nannini made his stop that much later, and he's going to have a very comfortable lead on Nannini when the dust is settled and we can get to look at the gap. So Senna knows that he's already got a huge lead. He certainly doesn't want to take any risks on slick tyres on that. And Senna is right behind Modena now, looking for a way past him. He goes through too, and on the wet bit now you see what happens in slicks. And that's the problem that Senna's got, of course. When you're on slicks, you daren't leave the dry line, or you have to shut your eyes and really pray when you get off the dry line in order to pass somebody.
Ayrton Senna leading by nearly 15 seconds now from in second position. It's Alain Prost has gone up to second position after the stops. Saw Berger ripping off one of his tear-offs there. It must be getting very dirty in these conditions, but on lap 17 out of 70, it is Ayrton Senna in the lead. It is Prost in second position. Watch this replay and see how Senna, you see that's how good a racing driver's reflexes have to be. He just put his right-hand wheels on that wet patch, instantly lost traction, the car got out of shape, and Senna fought it back into line immediately. As I was saying, Senna is leading. Alain Prost, his deadly rival, his teammate from the past 2 years in McLaren, but this year in a Ferrari, is in second position. In third place, it's Thierry Boutsen, and there was the Ferrari, and there is Boutsen. That is the gap. With the yellow flashes, that is Alain Prost. Now, as they fight their way through the traffic, Prost has passed Capelli, and Boutsen has just passed Wojtek, and Prost now has got to get ahead of Suzuki in the Lola, and he does so. And Thierry Boutsen, last year's winner, now in third place, and the gap between Senna and Prost is up to 27 seconds now. So the Brazilian is using all his considerable racecraft and his new tyres. With Alain Prost in the semi-automatic gearbox Ferrari, is it going to last the race? In second position, ahead of Thierry Boutsen. In fourth position, it is Nelson Piquet. In fifth position, it is Nigel Mansell. Both the Ferraris in the top 5. Sixth in the points, Derek Warwick in the Lotus. And behind him is Riccardo Patrese. Ahead of, in eighth position, Gerhard Berger.
And you see now the tremendous advantage that the quicker men have on slick tyres against those drivers who are stuck on wets. Prost and Boutsen set for a bit of a tussle. Boutsen, remember, no doubt likes the circuit a great deal after his victory here last year. And it seemed the character of Montreal in June to have this changeable weather. It seems to be a fairly regular feature of the Canadian Grand Prix these days. We had showers last year, threw the race into some confusion, from which the person who remained coolest, calmest and held it all together to the end was Thierry Boutsen. And Boutsen really climbing all over the back of Prost. Good attacking driving from Boutsen, but we are, of course, Boutsen has this problem with, if he's going to pass, he's got to dip out onto the slippery bit of the circuit, he's got to move off the dry line, and that really negates any efforts at the moment unless he can force Prost into some sort of a mistake.
And not so very far behind them is the evergreen Nelson Piquet in the Benetton Ford. Ayrton Senna, of course, he doesn't realise what the battle is going on behind him, but it is between Prost and Boutsen, and he won't care because Prost and Boutsen are making it difficult for each other. Each wants the fastest line. Prost has got to try and stop Boutsen getting past. And there in the background, you saw the Benetton. It's very close indeed between Prost second, there he is, Boutsen third, there he is, as they come down to the very difficult pits corner, and Nelson Piquet, who is in fourth place ahead of the second Ferrari of Nigel Mansell. Look back at there, you just saw Nelson Piquet. And Piquet is actually catching the Ferrari and the Williams Renault. By the way, hats off again to Renault, who came back into racing last year. They won with Thierry Boutsen here and in Australia, and a lot of second places with Riccardo Patrese, and now Prost is being held up by the Ligier. There is the gap, nearly 30 seconds, and Boutsen loses it, and straight into the Ligier. So Boutsen out of the race, up into third position goes Nelson Piquet, and Boutsen is going to try and struggle back to the pits, but he's out of the race, I think.
Che non dovrebbe essere in buone condizioni, e vediamo adesso che cosa succede, mentre Prost è stato molto fortunato a cavarsela.
Boutsen dips out to try and go past, and onto the wet, loses control of the car, completely underbraking the car, snaps back across in front of Prost, and takes Larini out, and Prost did very well to anchor up to avoid all the debris there.
Sinistra fuori uso. È uscito dalla traiettoria, ha messo le ruote sulla pista umida e... Bene, allora adesso andiamo alla linea Germiani.
Sì, vi assicuro che meritava, perché guardate, una cosa del genere non è mai capitata. Voi sapete perché Nannini è tornato ai box? Guardate, Flavio Briatore, spiegaci un po'. Purtroppo non potete vedere le immagini, ha un ciuffo di una pelliccia d'animale.
Non so che pelliccia sia, ma ha attraversato la strada Nannini, ha attraversato la pista e Nannini l'ha presa e ha rotto la lettone dell'acqua.
Ecco, pensate che questo ritorno di Nannini ai box, subito evidentemente il team era piuttosto arrabbiato, ovviamente. Si sono messi a ridere tutti perché o è stata una marmotta o qualche altro animale. Abbiamo qui un pezzo di pelliccia, corpo del reato. Nannini ha avuto l'attraversamento di un animale ed è dovuto ritornare, ma vi assicuro che i danni sono notevoli. Vi dicevo prima, non so con chi ha avuto la collisione, in effetti un animale piuttosto piccolo tra l'altro e che è dovuto ritornare ai box.
Può essere una marmotta, perché ne ho viste 2 o 3 in questi giorni ad attraversare le strade, proprio qua sull'Île di Notre Dame.
È un classico, tutti gli anni ci sono le inquadrature che la regia dedica a questi animali, ed è strano che in condizioni di particolare rumorosità non siano protette nella loro tana.
Addirittura mi ricordo a Zeltweg che un cervo attraversò la pista e il povero Johansson lo colpì in pieno distruggendo la vettura, un cervo addirittura. Dunque succedono, ecco, queste cose. È chiaro che
sì,
non si può dire che è stato fortunato, ecco, di questo.
Intanto la situazione di classifica è con Senna al comando al 21esimo giro, e vedete in questo momento Prost che conclude al secondo posto con 34 secondi di distacco da Senna, mentre Piquet gli è a ridosso. Prost si è liberato abilmente, non ha fatto niente, ma è stato abbastanza freddo da non rischiare il sorpasso di Larini, quello che ha fatto Boutsen, e come sapete Boutsen si è dovuto fermare dopo aver irrimediabilmente rovinato la corsa anche a Larini, che era completamente incolpevole in questo caso. L'astuzia, evidentemente il sangue freddo di Prost, ha fatto sì che gli consentì che riuscisse a passare nella mischia senza danni. Adesso deve vedersela con un altro scatenato della giornata, e in questo caso si tratta...
He's in the wet of Bhutan, and he's out on the boondocks and in all sorts of trouble.
Well, of course, that's the big drama when you have a circuit that's got a predominant dry line, and the minute you get off that dry line, you're in the wet, and he's in the wet on slicks. But I must say that was just brain fade, I think he just overcooked it.
Berger still in 6th place despite that 1-minute penalty.
Yes, well, I think that's about as far up as you'll get. I'm not... a minute penalty is a hell of a thing to overcome, that's for sure. But I feel very sorry for Elio, because here he's minding his own business and gets taken out of the Grand Prix after about 20 laps or something by a guy that overcooks it. All right, let's go back.
Second gear for Island Hairpin. Nelson Piquet, and you can see Nigel Mansell coming up into the picture. There he is. Ferrari second, Benetton third, Ferrari fourth of Nigel Mansell. In 5th position, it is still Derek Warwick, as he was last year, doing well in the Canadian Grand Prix. 6th Berger, 7th Patrese. In 8th position, it is Martin Donnelly. So both the Lotuses are doing well. Mansell. Nigel desperately needs points in this race. He's only finished once this year to get just 3 points. 4th in Brazil. And it certainly hasn't been for lack of trying. It certainly hasn't been because he's lost any of his ability, as you can see for yourselves, because Nelson Piquet in 3rd position is making no ground up at all on Alain Prost, whereas Mansell is certainly making gain on Nelson Piquet. So, over the line, Nigel Mansell. And of course, they have all been in for tyres. There's Derek Warwick. And behind Derek Warwick, Riccardo Patrese. So again, positions, because we are on the 24th lap now in this 70-lap race. And now it's just a question of time, I think, before Mansell, and the track is drying out all the time. You can see that light-coloured strip is getting wider, but there's no margin for them to move off it, because even there, you see on the inside, it's slippery and shiny, and that is Nannini. Alessandro Nannini in the background, walking, so he's perfectly all right. Now, this will be a replay. Let's see what happened as Patrese in the Williams Cup. That is exactly where Senna had his problem, but unlike Senna, Nannini did not succeed in holding it, and there's no friction between the tyres and the grass and the track on this wet part. Straight into the tyres and the Armco, and out of the race goes Alessandro Nannini in his Benetton Ford, the man who led the race before he changed his tyres.
And that again was the problem of having to get off the dry line onto the wet to try and pass slower cars. And that certainly caught Nannini out, and that was probably one of the wettest bits of the circuit too. Like you said, we saw Senna have a little twitch there, and he wasn't really pressing at all hard. Nannini trying to make up time, because he lost a lot of the road anyway by making such a late pit stop. And now you see Senna cutting down Berger's lead. Now, going back to what I was saying about when to make your pit stop, the reason that we don't have Berger, we're not calling him in 1st place because, of course, of his minute penalty. But Berger is actually in 5th place with his penalty, as Alesi still charging away there. But the interesting point is that Berger, because of stopping earlier than Senna, we didn't see that either, that he was in before Senna, he had a big lead over Senna. And that was because he made the pit stop at the right time. Now, it does amaze me that these drivers, with all the historical information, the experience of seeing other people and lower formulae about when to stop, they all stop too late. It's quite extraordinary.
Well, you really are seeing some superlative driving now as Gerhard Berger dives through the traffic, followed by Ayrton Senna, who has got behind him Jean Alesi, followed by Martin Donnelly. And you saw Alesi passing Donnelly at the hairpin, and Berger is still staying ahead of Ayrton Senna on the track, and he's actually up into 5th position in the race, and that takes account of his 60-second penalty. So the Austrian is really charging, and on lap 25 you watch the race leader Ayrton Senna, who is well over half a minute now ahead of Alain Prost in second position, with Nelson Piquet third. That's Grillard spinning, and in fourth position it's Nigel Mansell, and you know how close he is to Nelson Piquet in the Benetton. As Berger goes through, there is Senna, followed by Alesi. Berger goes past Grillard into the hairpin. This is real short circuit stuff, diving in and out of the traffic. And don't forget that they can lose adhesion very, very easily if they just go even a few inches off the line.
And a challenge for Berger is, can he get his McLaren back up into second place on the road? Or rather with his minute penalty in the results, because that he would only be some 25 seconds or so behind Alain Prost. Look at Alesi charging through tiny little gaps there. Alesi is really proving himself to be a tremendous charger, and a very skillful one at that, because he's charging in a way that most other Grand Prix drivers don't see much of and aren't used to. He's certainly showing the car control to be able to do it.
Race order, lap 25, and Alesi is not in the first six, which is one of the reasons he's going so very hard. Not that he ever goes slowly. Ayrton Senna still leading. You're watching John Alesi in the Tyrrell Ford. Second is still Alain Prost in the Ferrari, chased by Nelson Piquet, who has still not been passed by Nigel Mansell. Here is Senna coming up to try and take the Cesaris. There is Grillard, followed by Bernard in the Lola Lamborghini. In fifth position, as I've told you, it's Gerhard Berger. Sixth is Derek Warwick. Seventh is Patrese. Eighth is Donnelly. Ninth, the man you've been watching, Jean Alesi. In 10th position, it is Stefano Modena in the Brabham. In 11th place, it's Alex Cathy. In 12th position, it is Philippe Alliot. Then, behind Philippe Alliot, it is Capelli. So Capelli in the Leighton House is going well in a situation where the team has had a quite appalling 1990, and Gerhard Berger forces on. Now, let's see if we see the red and white flash for Ayrton Senna, and we did. But oh dear, Gerhard Berger's had some problems this year. He went into the tyre wall at Phoenix and then out of the race in his first race for McLaren, having started in pole position. He finished second in Brazil, he finished second in San Marino. In Monaco he was in third position, and that jump start when he eased away just a fraction before the lights turned from red to green has cost him dear. Meantime, Prost and Piquet, there they are in the Scarlet Ferrari and the multicoloured Benetton Ford, are still at it. Hammer and tongs on lap 28. And my goodness, that is John Alesi in exactly the same place as Nannini. He's hit Nannini's car. Thank heavens Nannini's got away from it. And exactly the same, that was where Senna nearly went off. So once again, we have had a demonstration of how brilliant Senna is. He held it, and neither Nannini nor Alesi succeeded.
Yes, Alesi, anyway, luckily didn't appear to hit it too hard and hit the car. And here we see him, he dipped out onto the wet, and there it is, the brakes locked, all the skew whiff, and no deceleration at all, sideways on the wet grass, and then he climbed straight up the Benetton. Now that can be very nasty in accidents, but the speed was fairly low, and he was quite unhurt by the look of it. You'll just see, he hopped straight out of the car and climbed out and over the barrier and away. So tremendous charging stuff from Alesi, but he got caught out by the wet patch on slick tyres, as we've seen several people do. But it's the old dilemma. When you're trying to get past, if the driver in front sticking to the proper racing line, and that's the only bit of dry road, you have to venture onto the wet to do it. That one's a bit of a nasty road because of that particular point, because it's a tempter for the drivers to pull out. There's plenty of room, and the track there is probably the wettest of anywhere that they hit. It's a bit puddly, it's quite bumpy there.
Well, as you watch Alain Prost, I'll tell you that out of the race already have gone Pierluigi Martini. Very, very early in the race, of course. We saw them on the second lap trying to get past his Minardi. Thierry Boutsen went out after that contact. and Larini has gone out after contact. Nannini just went off at almost exactly the same place where Senna didn't go off, and he has now been joined by Alesi. And that's pretty rotten luck for the Benetton team, because the car was more or less whole until into it at an enormous velocity when the Tyrrell Ford of Jean Alesi to do it absolutely no good at all. Derek Warwick in 7th then, his teammate Martin Donnelly in 8th position. As you can see, Ayrton Senna has lapped everybody up to the 7th place man, and in the background, chasing Modena, there are 2nd Prost, 3rd Piquet, 4th Mansell, no change, and they are all catching Stefano Modena. Nelson Piquet, who had a pretty rotten couple of seasons before this year and was judged to have lost motivation, has finished in the points 3 times this year, and he's going to do it again from the look of things.
Well, the 4 cars in front of him, I would say that Gerhard Berger has a realistic chance of attempting to pass 3 of them, the leader of which is Alain Prost. You see Piquet harrowing him very hard from behind, but faced with the problem of moving onto the wet bits to try and attack, and the 3 second, 3rd and 4th are all together, of course, with Mansell right behind that pair. So he's got about 23 seconds to catch that group. Now, Prost looking for a way around Stefano Modena to lap him. Modena knows what he's doing, and we see from his onboard camera as Prost just comes into view. Clean, smooth pick-up from the Ferrari V12. We get to hear it well from the mic on that camera. And the point being, though, that Berger, if he can catch them on the road, he won't, of course, have to physically pass them. So if he can get to them, he won't have the normal problem of catching is one thing but passing's another, because he won't be racing them on the road, being nearly a minute ahead of them. So what we're going to do is watch the gap for Berger to see if he is catching them.
Well, there we are. Past Modena has gone Nelson Piquet. Now Nigel Mansell's got to do the same thing. And did you notice how, when Stefano Modena, that we're riding with now, and who's powered by a Judd V8 engine, was passed by Alain Prost, when Prost put his foot down and the V12 Ferrari really picked up speed and revs, he absolutely sailed away from the Brabham Judd. Prost passing Griard on the inside line. Griard moves over onto the wet. This is where they've all been going off, but they're being very careful to stay on the dry line now. Mansell's still got to take Modena on the left, who is in 8th position, and as they come up to the corner in the race order on lap 31, we're coming up towards half distance in this Canadian Grand Prix, which if last year... Now there we are, there's a replay. Have a look at it again. Now there's Mansell going through ahead of Modena. My apologies. You'll see exactly the same thing happen though. Mansell, having passed the Brabham Judd, will sail away. He's doing so, but he's still got to make up distance on Nelson Piquet, who has taken the opportunity to pull away from Nigel Mansell, and sandwiched between them is Griard. There he is, the Frenchman in the Italian Marcella. We are on lap 32 now. Ayrton Senna leading very comfortably indeed, and taking his time about getting round the circuit by his standards. Prost in 2nd position. In 3rd position it is still Piquet. 4th is still Mansell. In 5th position it is still Gerhard Berger, allowing for the 60 seconds penalty, that is.
2 secondi da Prost, Mansell a 2 secondi da Piquet, Berger a 19 secondi da Mansell. Questi sono i primi 5, aspettiamo sul traguardo il 6º, che dovrebbe essere Riccardo Caprese, che transita in questo momento a 15 secondi da Berger, tallonato a 1 secondo e 4 da Warwick. Poi c'è un buco di mezzo minuto con 8º Donnelly che precede Modena, Caffiagliò, Capelli, poi Seghegroia. 32esimo giro concluso, non siamo ancora alla metà corsa e già c'è stata una serie di colpi di scena che addirittura è difficile ricordare. Senna continua a guidare la corsa, Piquet insidia sempre la seconda posizione di Prost, che adesso vedete in primo piano, mentre Mansell dovrebbe essersi avvicinato alla brasiliano che lo precede. Mansell a 2 secondi 8 da Piquet, no, situazione praticamente invariata, e anche Piquet ha perso leggermente nei confronti di Prost a 2 secondi e mezzo. Prost ha riguadagnato nei confronti di Senna girando in 1.24.339 contro 1.25.2 del brasiliano che guida la corsa con la McLaren Honda, quindi abbiamo un recupero di quasi mezzo secondo da parte di Prost, mentre Mansell ha perso leggermente nei confronti di Piquet, per l'esattezza 8 decimi. Berger è a 18 secondi da Mansell, ha girato più veloce di lui, ha rosicchiato 9 decimi. E non siamo ancora a metà corsa, quindi ancora tutto può succedere nelle posizioni di testa e nelle retrostanti ovviamente, mentre si conclude il 33esimo giro adesso per Senna. Berger ha appena passato, Senna gira in 1.24.908, Berger è girato in 1.24.299 che è il suo miglior tempo. Mentre aspettiamo gli inseguitori, vi ricordo che il giro veloce è sempre il 23esimo di Mansell in 1.23.839. A pieni giri ci sono 7 concorrenti, sono Senna, Prost, Piquet, Mansell, Berger, Patrese e Warwick. Ottavo e primo dei doppiati, Danelli che precede, sempre staccati di un giro, Modena, Caffi, Cappelli, Foytek e Bernard. 14esimo a 2 giri, Aglio, seguito sempre a 2 giri da Nakashima, Leto, De Cesaris, Grugliar e Suzuki. Figura a 6 giri, ma sapete bene che si è ritirato sui rottami della Benetton di Nannini, Alesi con la sua Tyrrell Force. 33esimo giro concluso, sapevamo, da parte di Senna. Prost è a 29 secondi e 5, Piquet a 2 secondi da Prost, Mansell a 2 secondi e 8 da Piquet, Berger a 18 secondi e 2 da Mansell. Al sesto posto Patrese, che essendo staccato di un'altra quindicina di secondi e quindi è piuttosto vicino a Senna che sta avviandosi al traguardo, appare sul computer pochi attimi prima che Senna, passando sul traguardo, cancelli la strisciata della classifica per passare al nuovo giro. 34esimo giro di Senna, 1.24.344, Berger a 54 secondi, intanto Prost passa adesso sul traguardo a 29 secondi e 9 da Senna, Piquet a 2 secondi 1, continua a girare più o meno sugli stessi tempi di Prost, il distacco è sempre invariato attorno a 2 secondi 1.
Berger chasing Mansell at a rapid rate.
Yeah, in fact, he's only about 19 seconds behind him on the board, so to speak. So he's making really good progress, to the tune of about half a second to a second a lap, so he's really going for it.
Interesting to note, when Alesi came off and went into the Benetton, you made a great comment. I mean, it's one of those things, when that happens, you get out of your car for that reason.
Oh, well, too right, because you said, well, isn't it funny how the cars come through and hit him in the same spot? And I said, well, that's for that very reason, because that's why the escape road's there, but the inertia will more than likely, in fact, at this part of the circuit we're looking at, the inertia will take you on the same route that the guy that's just done it before you has. And that's why it was always a good practice to get out and get going quick smart, because you have a visitor like that coming through, it can be a bit terminal. All right, let's go back live now to James Murray at Montreal.
As ever, in a Grand Prix at this stage of the race, the decimation in terms of cars having gone off or broken down is considerable. Martini out, Boutsen out, Larini out, Nannini out, Alesi out, and still they have to be very careful indeed. Piquet, 3rd position, Mansell, 4th place.
Yes, it looks as if as the road dries out completely, that Piquet is beginning to struggle to stay with Prost. Off of the Cesaris, very slow activity going on there. Return to Prost, and of course we know that Prost is pretty cautious in these sort of damp and changeable conditions. Mansell In fourth place, running just behind Piquet, then Mansell following him. Ross, Soames. Then it's been sandwiched by the two Ferraris. And certainly, in the dry in practice, Piquet wasn't quite as quick as Prost, and I suspect that Prost was taking it pretty carefully till he was absolutely sure that he knew his way round and where the slippery bits were, and is now beginning to stretch his legs.
Well, you saw, here they are again, Riccardo Patrese, who is sixth, the last person in the points on one World Championship point at the moment, with Derek Warwick still stuck behind him, desperately trying to get back in the points, where he has been earlier today when some of the front men were in 4 tyres. That was Ivan Capelli going through, and Senna is coming up now to lap the 7th place man very shortly. Senna in the background. So it's Patrese, 6th, Warwick, 7th, Senna, the race leader, who will no doubt pick his points and his time very carefully. It's more and more difficult, of course, as Senna comes up to the really fast men, for him to get past them, especially when Warwick won't want to give way as he's trying to get past Patrese. And if Senna is held up, it's giving Prost the opportunity to close up all the time, but such is the gap between them, 30 seconds, that Senna can afford to be very calm and deliberate, as he always is in the cockpit, about where he makes his passing move. In the background you saw Gregor Wojtek going extremely well in the Onyx, this young Swiss driver who's come up from Formula 3000, the man who's involved in the dreadful crash with Johnny Herbert. And Senna goes through and moves up in ahead of the 7th place man, Derek Warwick, who saw the red and white McLaren with that yellow helmet towering over it, and that is always a sign to move over, and it's amazing the way the traffic seems to melt when Ayrton Senna is coming up to lap people. So ahead of him now, he's got the 6th position man, Riccardo Patrese, appropriately number 6, the man who won the San Marino Grand Prix and his 5th equal in the championship with his teammate Thierry Boutsen. Although Boutsen, of course, is going to score no points here today, he's out of the race. So Patrese 6th. Senna the leader, Warwick in 7th place. The race order on lap 38 now remains Senna leading as Patrese comes round the left-hander behind Ivan Capelli. And in 2nd place, of course, Alain Prost. A gap between Prost and Piquet of about 2 or 3 seconds. In 4th position, it is still Nigel Mansell who can't get past the Benetton. 5th place, it's still pretty static, is Gerhard Berger, a really storming drive after that 60-second penalty of his. Then lapped, through to lap Riccardo Patrese. 6th in the race goes Ayrton Senna, and 7th is Derek Warwick.
Yes, and Derek Warwick was looking, I think, to try and stay with Senna, so if Senna got past, he could try and follow him through. But he wasn't quite close enough. It was a tremendous idea, and I was rooting for him. I could see what he was angling up. He nearly got close enough, but it would have been overly heroic, because Derek has been stuck behind Patrese for quite some time now, and of course, with Patrase's pretty experienced, he won't be putting any wheels off the line and onto the wet, and so he's leaving it all for Warwick to do, to try, because he's got to step out of line, get onto the slippery stuff, and basically say his prayers, keep his fingers crossed and hope he can do it, but at the moment he's taking what's probably a much more sensible course, trying to force it.
Conclusione del 38esimo giro, e intanto Mansell si è portato nella scia di Piquet, ma però il distacco rimane più o meno lo stesso, almeno nel giro precedente, perché adesso occhio, mi sembra che il distacco tra i due sia inferiore ai 2 secondi indicati sul teleschermo. Vediamo ecco qua la conclusione. Piquet sembra leggermente più vicino a Prost prima, bella questa ripresa dall'alto. Sull'allungo comunque la Ferrari sembra essere un filino più potente, indipendentemente dalla considerazione che mi è cara a proposito del fatto che i distacchi si misurano in tempi e non in metri. Vedete c'è sulla frenata Piquet sembra avvicinarsi. però sta entrando in scia. Vediamo un po', ecco, infatti a 3 decimi, Mansell un secondo e mezzo, quindi era più vicino che non il 2 Gilda e il 2 secondi del giro
Prost
precedente.
abbia rallentato un pelino la sua andatura. È estremamente
veramente ha
difficile.
girato in 1.24.743,
Sì,
rispetto ha girato in 1.25.7, ha girato un secondo più veloce di Senna.
Rispetto ai suoi più diretti seguitori, diciamo, Piquet e Prost, vedo che si sono avvicinati leggermente, comunque è difficile.
Qualche problema sicuramente. Diciamo che dall'inizio Prost dà la sensazione di guidare con una certa difficoltà.
Infatti. Però stanno girando fortissimo tutte e tre, diciamo.
Comunque nella situazione di classifica conferma quello che si diceva all'inizio della corsa, e cioè in funzione di un augurio che nasceva bene augurante dal successo dell'Italia nella prima partita del mondiale, si sperava che anche la Ferrari potesse fare una buona corsa. Per adesso la sta facendo eccellente con le due vetture al secondo e al quarto posto.
Può darsi anche che Prost magari abbia dei leggeri problemi di surriscaldamento del motore, perché ho visto che le due Ferrari sono partite tutte e due con gli scarichi dell'aria dei radiatori, diciamo le uscite chiuse. Evidentemente pensavano a una temperatura
più bassa.
But Ayrton Senna well on his own. Exactly 30 seconds. He's maintaining the gap between himself and Alain Prost. Terrific scrap between Prost, Piquet and Mansell, second, third and fourth. Here is the battle, but for sixth and seventh, between Riccardo Patrese and Derek Warwick. And Lotus, I'm happy to say, really seem to be getting on top of the new car designed by Frank Durney with its Lamborghini V12 engine. They had a dreadful start to 1990. In fact, Derek Warwick has only finished in one race, and his teammate Martin Donnelly in the same way has only finished in one race. But the good news is, as you look at the caption there, Senna, Prost, Piquet, Mansell, Berger, Patrese, that both the Lotus cars are not only running but well up, because there is Warwick challenging Patrese and going through and taking sixth position. So Warwick is in the points and not so far behind Riccardo Patrese's Williams Renault is the second Lotus of Martin Donnelly in eighth position. So it's Warwick sixth, Patrese seventh now, and then Donnelly in eighth position, and Mansell starting another charge as they come up now to try and lap Nakajima, who's in the way.
Yes, and Piquet will be looking for Nakajima to cause a bit of a schmozzle, but he doesn't. He very politely and correctly pulls right out of the way of the quicker men, gives them all the space they need, and that was good tail end driving. And tremendous performance by Derek Warwick. I was very pleased to see him. He was patient, and when he did finally move up past Patrese into sixth place, he did it with perfectly cleanly, without any risk at all, and how deserved that is. And let's all hope that Derek Warwick can stay amongst the points, get the car to the finish, because he's driven so solidly that he really deserves some good results. And so do the Lotus team. Their car, the chassis is now extremely competitive. Lamborghini, they have got their act together with reliability for the engine, car combination. The car seems to be running much more reliably now, and they should start to climb back towards some decent results.
And there is Martin Donnelly in eighth position, about to be lapped by Prost, Piquet and Mansell, who is the fastest man on the circuit. Nigel Mansell, lap 41, and we are now on lap 42, went round in 1 minute 23.8, which is the fastest lap of the race, and is actually a new lap record. That shows you how things have improved, because Ayrton Senna's lap record from 1989 was 1 minute 24.9, so the flying Nigel Mansell has really got the bit between his teeth. There it is, second, third and fourth. They're all being held up by Donnelly, who doesn't see any good reason why he should move over onto the wet, and I don't blame him one little bit. We've seen what happens when you do, with Alesi going off and with Nannini going off. and Senna nearly going off, and it's still pretty damp there. Not wet, damp, and in some ways that can be worse, and that's where they went off. So Martin Donnelly, 8th position, with Riccardo Patrese 7th ahead of him, and he is 20 seconds behind Riccardo Patrese. And there's that wonderful view of the circuit with the Olympic rowing strip, the St. Lawrence Seaway on one side, the Olympic rowing strip on the other, as Prost second with the yellow flashes on the Ferrari. Veteran Nelson Piquet, 3 times world champion, 14 times a Grand Prix winner, Nigel Mansell follows them, second, third and fourth, pulling away from Martin Donnelly. And this is real Grand Prix racing.
Piquet looks a bit twitchy there, right on the limit coming through there, and it's a good shot there. You can see how much the bumps in the surface throw the cars around. Remember, they've got very hard suspension, these Formula 1 cars, and that's to keep the chassis low to the road and to keep the ride height, i.e. the gap between the cars coming on the road, as constant as possible, because that has a big effect on the aerodynamics. The designers do not want a nice comfy chassis that goes up and down on the springs and gets moves up and down relative to the road surface, because that plays havoc with the grip of the car. So Piquet really challenging Alain Prost. Back a little bit, having a look at this tremendous 3-way battle for second place.
Well, Piquet's pretty close to being able to pass now. He needs to have his nose even closer to the gearbox, and they're coming up now to Riccardo Patrese, who is virtually as quick as they are under normal circumstances. It's going to be, we could well see a change now as the Ferrari, the Benetton and the second Ferrari come up to Riccardo Patrese, who is in 7th position ahead of Martin Donnelly, with Derek Warwick in front of him. Don't forget, it's still, the producer is concentrating, and rightly so, on this great battle for second, third and fourth. But still 30 seconds ahead of Alain Prost in the Scarlet Ferrari is Ayrton Senna, leading the race on lap 45. And Piquet getting closer and closer and challenging there.
Was that a bit of... Yes, it was a bit of Williams' wing, I saw. So Prost has got through, and Piquet now goes through. Mansell looks as if he's going to follow through the same gap. And indeed, Riccardo Patrese read the situation correctly. Here was the battle for second place, coming up to lap him, and he duly assisted their passage.
And you'll notice that none of them made any effort at all to go wide and onto the damp part of the track for obvious reasons. Nelson Piquet, who joined Benetton this year, although I haven't got anybody to admit it, is understood to be on something like $100,000 a World Championship point, as opposed to an even bigger retainer, in which case he's done well this season to finish in the points 3 times already in 4 races. Looks as though it's going to be 5 now. And when I tell you that Nelson Piquet, number 20, has already got 6 World Championship points, and into the pits comes Riccardo Patrese. Now, why? Is this tyres? It doesn't know. No one's doing anything about the tyres in the front. Yes, they're doing something about them now. They're off. But this looks like a very leisurely pit stop to me. There is not the usual frenetic activity all round the car. And there's a Renault technician in the white shirt. You can see that he's got something plugged into the side of the car. That's probably giving him some readings off the telemetry. But anyway, Riccardo Patrese, whose teammate Thierry Boutsen, who won last year, is already out, seems to be giving up in the Canadian Grand Prix as Senna goes through to complete his 46th lap. So there's still 24 laps to go. 24 laps of this 2.73 mile circuit with a new lap record for Nigel Mansell. 1 minute 23.81. But the McLaren Honda, with the brilliant Brazilian at the wheel, well out on its own, and I can't see anything challenging Ayrton Senna. He's really just got to be sensible, and heaven knows he is always that.
Arrivare quinto non è un grande risultato per lui, dunque io penso che lui cerchi...
Sì, però è a 14 secondi 8, quindi praticamente non è che abbia guadagnato moltissimo, pur con questi ritmi elevati e nonostante le difficoltà. Intanto vedi che Prost è riuscito a respirare un po' nei confronti di Piquet. Che si gira sul tempo medio di 1,25, mancano 23 giri, diciamo 22 giri a questo punto. Adesso vediamo in cabina di fare due conti per vedere approssimativamente quanto può mancare alla conclusione della corsa. I ritmi dovrebbero rimanere questi, il tempo per il momento atmosferico non cambia, i tempi sui giri si ripetono con costanza ormai, quindi calcolando il tempo di 1,25 dovremmo essere tranquilli, e cioè dovrebbero mancare circa 27 minuti alla conclusione della corsa. Questa naturalmente è un'indicazione per la regia, sono 23 giri alla fine, e diamo la linea a Zermiani.
Ecco, Patrese è ripartito ma con poca convinzione, hanno dato lo sfiato alla conduzione dei freni e ovviamente deve essere quello il problema per il simpatico padovano. Adesso è riuscito, però vedete che tra poco si fermerà proprio a questi problemi di freni, probabilmente il pedale va a fondo.
He certainly is. He's really going well, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to see him get crossed. He's in a Ferrari sandwich at the moment, but he's doing it very comfortably, and it would be a great result for him.
Good to see Lotus back in the money.
Yeah, they're going really well too. They're driving extremely well, and Donnelly, who's relatively inexperienced in Formula One, is showing very well. All right, well, now we turn back to James Murray.
To do it, it's still good to see him back in form. It is $12,000 a point, we believe, that he's understood to be getting, or that's what I heard, but as Murray says, nobody will tell you what it is, but that's my inside source. I shouldn't think it's necessarily accurate, but I fancy it's not quite 100 grand, and the battle really fast and furious now. Prost holding on, and of course he's going to be sweating every time he sees the back markers. He's not in a lot of danger. Mansell closing right up, and I think Mansell's going to have a look at the inside of Piquet now. Piquet uses all the road there, and Mansell looks to have the bit suddenly between his teeth. Mansell went a bit wide now. He got on the marbles. You see how that just slowed him down momentarily. He got his outside front there, lost a bit of grip. And every time he sees a back marker, Prost must be worrying a lot. Because that is Piquet's best chance and Mansell's. The circuit is really too tight, too twisty for straightforward passing by equal cars under normal conditions. And a new lap record for Ayrton Senna, 1:23.5, so well over a second faster than the old lap record from last year.
And it's Wojtek in front of the back, and Piquet goes through. Piquet then, brilliant, ahead of Alain Prost. Hopefully we'll see a replay of that. Nelson Piquet moves up into a magnificent second place in the Canadian Grand Prix. Down to third goes Prost. Still fourth is Nigel Mansell. But now Piquet's got the traffic in front of him. First of all, he's got to get past Wojtek. Then he's got to get past Capelli, who is still running. And Piquet looks to me as though he's edging away from the two Ferraris now. This could be an Now, here is the replay. Well, I was about to say, here is the replay, and there it wasn't. But Piquet, Prost, Mansell, second, third, fourth. Now, watch Piquet tackle Wojtek, the Swiss, who, very good manners a little while ago, moved over. Is he going to do the same thing now? In front of Wojtek is Capelli. In front of Capelli is Greer.
Yes, well, I'd certainly expect Piquet to go away from Alain Prost by the way he was climbing all over him, but rather unfortunate when he finally does get through to meet such a wall of traffic ahead of him. Well, he's dealt with Wojtek, and he'll be pleased that he managed to get through and Prost didn't, and Prost far too old and wise to have headed for that wet track to try and slip it inside Wojtek there. Mansell now, I bet you Mansell's going to have a go at Prost as they go into hairpin. He is indeed, and Mansell is through into third place. So Prost loses 2 places in 2 laps, from second down to fourth, and Mansell now takes up the chase of Piquet. Well, he's quite used to the sight of the back of Piquet's car, but defending Ferrari's interest there.
Yeah, and I begin to wonder whether there's something wrong with Prost's Ferrari. I don't believe that Alain Prost suddenly goes off like that, even being passed by 2 people as capable of as Nelson Piquet and Nigel Mansell. And you then wonder what could have gone wrong, if anything's gone wrong. I don't know, of course. It might have been gears. It is a 7-speed semi-automatic gearbox. Maybe Prost has lost one of them. It might be the tyres going off. I can't see any good reason why his should go off more than Mansell's, who now goes inside Ivan Capelli, who has got Wojtek. There's 18 cars left in the race out of the 26 who started. We are on lap 51, so there's 19 laps still to go, as Berger is now only 9 seconds behind Alain Prost, who dives inside Capelli, and Berger is in 5th position. And I remind you that he had a 60-second penalty for jumping the start. It's been an absolutely fabulous drive by Gerhard Berger, of whom we have seen very little recently, as Prost goes inside Wojtek, having to lap him, and the race order now is on lap 51. Ayrton Senna still lapped 30 seconds ahead of the second place man, who now, of course, is Nelson Piquet in the Benetton, and that's the highest the Benetton has been this season. Not the highest the V8 has been this season, because Jean Alesi, of course, in the Tyrrell Ford has finished twice in second position this year. So it is Nelson Piquet is in his highest position, actually. I've just worked it out, since 1987. Senna leading in second position, then Piquet. Third position, Prost. Third position, Mansell. And fourth, Alain Prost. There he is, ahead of Gerhard Berger, who is catching the 2 Ferraris. It's not inconceivable that Gerhard Berger could still do the usual thing for McLaren and get them home in first and second places. If so, it would have been a truly great drive. But meantime, here is another Nelson Piquet, 37 years old. This is his 177th Grand Prix.
And this is Piquet passing Prost a couple of laps ago, and that was a very straightforward manoeuvre. We've been lining up that for some time. Prost left the door open, which makes one suspect maybe he has got a bit of car trouble, because he didn't defend the position as vigorously as he might have done. Piquet nipped through, he got himself into the perfect position, did it very nicely, and now, with the help of the traffic, has opened a bit of a gap to Mansell. In fact, he's opened quite a big gap to Mansell. Mansell was delayed by the traffic, but not that much, and it looks as if Piquet is really flying. Can Mansell, when he gets clear of the traffic, do anything to give chase? In the meantime, Berger is closing on Prost, who's in 4th place. He, of course, is in 5th, and now we have the replay of Mansell overtaking Prost, who, again, didn't defend the position particularly, didn't cover the inside, let Mansell go through. But Berger, who is in 5th place, but remember, he's actually leading the race on the road, but with his 60-second penalty, it computes out to 5th place, some 8 or 9 seconds behind Prost. And now he's only 1 second behind Prost.
È molto importante il telaio, come del resto lo è sempre stato nelle corse automobilistiche. La storia del resto ce lo insegna, i mondiali tantissime volte, cioè il più delle volte sono stati vinti con dei grandi telai. La Benetton in questo momento ha un telaio, un ottimo telaio, l'ha dimostrato sull'asciutto, sul bagnato.
Intanto vediamo Senna che con lotte accese dietro a lui, l'avevamo un po' perso di vista, anche se il computer continuava a darci la sua posizione. Senna è al comando a 32 minuti di vantaggio, mentre intanto questo direi che è Cesaris. Dicevamo dunque, Senna ha un vantaggio di 32 secondi e 5 nei confronti di Piquet. Piquet è seguito da Mansell a 6 secondi, Prost è dietro a Mansell di 3 e 6, Berger è a un solo secondo e 4 da Prost e ha girato più veloce di lui di oltre 3 decimi di secondo. Adesso farebbe bene che le immagini andassero su Prost e Berger. Mentre intanto Senna ha concluso, sta concludendo il 54esimo giro.
Di fatto Berger è in testa alla corsa, anche diciamo, in realtà lui è in testa.
Sì, lo vediamo, alla corsa, ma con avversari che sanno tutti che lui ha un minuto di penalizzazione.
Sì,
quindi è chiaro che Senna non farebbe...
Senna ha fatto la corsa
Senna ha fatto la corsa su Prost, non certo su Berger.
Senna ha fatto la corsa anche su Berger, sapendo di avere questo minuto di vantaggio, però è senza dubbio una bellissima corsa quella che sta facendo Berger, forse la più bella di quelle che ha fatto fino ad ora, diciamo dall'inizio del campionato.
Perché non è solo il piccolo errore di partenza di cui si è subito pentito, esatto, ma non è bastato.
Esatto, perché Berger l'abbiamo visto nelle prime gare di campionato a fare un po' la tiramolla in tutte le occasioni, anche a Imola, a Phoenix.
Sì, però c'è da dire una cosa, una considerazione che tu corridore in attività conosci a menadito, e cioè che è molto comodo psicologicamente correre quando si sa che ormai si è fuori corsa. Perché vai disteso, tranquillo, fai tutti i numeri, un po' come quando nel calcio si sta vincendo 0-0.
Diciamo che, ovviamente è un fattore psicologico, non si può non ignorare, però bisogna anche dire che qua stiamo parlando di gente che ha corso in Formula 1 da diversi anni, che riescono anche a controllare queste emozioni, dunque è vero questo. Comunque è anche vero che, almeno per quello che stiamo vedendo noi, che Berger sta facendo la sua migliore corsa dall'inizio del campionato. Certo che questo minuto di penalizzazione è uno stimolo ad andare più forte e cercare di ridurre questo vantaggio.
E intanto adesso se le immagini ci facessero vedere la situazione del duello tra Prost e Berger, potremmo anche capire se occupa la terza o la quarta posizione. Al giro precedente era ancora quarto Prost, quinto Berger, con Mansell al terzo posto dietro a Senna e Piquet. Tanto vedesse immagini del doppiaggio da parte di Senna nei confronti di Nakajima. Giro veloce di Mansell, 1:22.869, siamo scesi a 1:22.869, che è un tempo di assoluto rilievo, considerando che la pole position era di 1:20.999.
Certo, considerando le condizioni della pista, il fatto che le gomme abbiano già molti giri, sono dei tempi notevoli questi, insomma. Del resto questa è una pista che più giri e più veloce vai, perché si deposita più gomma, dunque il grip, diciamo l'aderenza aumenta in maniera consistente.
Linea Termiani.
Abbiamo Nannino, abbiamo rincorso dappertutto, questo qui è entrato dalla parte retrostante, non si è fatto via da nessuna televisione l'ha beccato. Allora perché ti sei nascosto e è arrivato con calma? No, sono arrivato con calma, ho preso un fondo al circuito e ci ho messo 10 minuti a arrivare. Ecco, cos'è successo? Non ci posso credere, guarda. Cos'è successo? Guarda, è da barzelletta perché 2 giorni fa mi ha detto una marmotta e dico, ma guarda queste marmotte girano per la strada, se uno mentre guida in corsa magari la prende, ecco, l'ho presa proprio io la marmotta. Ma hai preso magari la stessa che ti aveva passato nelle prove? Non lo so, nelle prove con la macchina normale. Con la macchina normale mi sono fermato e l'ho fatto passare, la stessa.
Before the season began, falling off a push bike, and an exercise bike. When I say a push bike, I mean he was pushing it jolly hard, but it was stationary, and he failed to start, and then that was in Phoenix, but he finished in 5th position at Monaco, and he's running strong now, so if he can just keep going, that'll be good. And Arrows lead a Philip. You're watching Stefano Modena, number 8 in 8th position now. It's Senna you're looking at. And the Arrows team have had a boost this week because Alan Jenkins has joined them as designer, and they desperately needed somebody of his calibre, with the knowledge that they're going to have Porsche V12 engines next year. And Alan Jenkins, who was with Onyx and before that was with McLaren, is now with the Arrows team as designer. And already the Brazilian flags are coming out all round the circuit because this enormous following that Ayrton Senna has, I won't say he's sensing victory, they've been sensing victory since the first lap. Now they're positive that it's going to be their man who comes home first. As you watch Nigel Mansell, the pace is hotting up because Nigel Mansell there is definitely closing on Nelson Piquet in second position, Piquet. So we've got the prospect of a Ferrari finishing in second place. Mansell charging. He's already put up a fastest lap, which has been beaten by Ayrton Senna, and Nigel Mansell going for Nelson Piquet in second place and 6 points.
Yes, and this will be very stimulating to Mansell. As I said earlier, it's been a bit of a dismal season for him so far, and this might just be the little G-up that he needs. Now, he'll have to charge because getting past Piquet is not really easy. We've seen how difficult it is for two evenly matched cars here to pass on it's a very varied circuit, but there really aren't any very long straights, so it's pretty stop-go. And there is Prost going past, and remember that Berger is somewhere just about to join this group on the stopwatch, not on the road.
And that's Derek Warwick behind Alain Prost. And Derek Warwick, I remind you, is in 6th position. So Prost has got some sort of a problem, no doubt at all about it. But the question now, as we watch Alain Prost ahead of the Lotus Lamborghini in 6th position, Derek Warwick, who is followed by his teammate Martin Donnelly in 7th place, Modena in 8th position, Caffey in 9th place. The question, and we'll rejoin it soon, I'm sure, is Nigel Mansell going to be able to get right with Nelson Piquet? And if he does, can he get past him up into second place? And there is a new fastest lap for Nigel Mansell, 1:22.8. Nigel, and that is 7/10 quicker than Ayrton Senna, so Mansell is really on his way.
Yes, it's 2 seconds quicker than last year's lap record, which is really something. Mansell absolutely flying.
Mentre intanto siamo su Mansell, che vedete è sempre all'inseguimento di Piquet. Vediamo adesso sul traguardo quale sarà il vantaggio del brasiliano sul ferrarista. Mansell ha 2 secondi e 6 di distacco, ha perso circa 6 decimi in questo 59esimo giro nei confronti di Piquet, mentre Prost ha fatto il suo giro più veloce in corsa in 1:23.361 per difendere almeno il 4º posto dal rimontante Berger, che adesso si trova a 5 secondi e 7. 10 giri e mezzo alla conclusione. Vedete questa inquadratura dell'alto dell'isola di Notre Dame con il bacino per le gare olimpiche di canottaggio sulla destra del teleschermo.
È possibile anche che Prost abbia avuto dei problemi ai freni. Normalmente succede questo, che se rallenti un pochino i freni ritornano efficienti e...
Senna, they of course look immobile, and Martin Donnelly seems to be in trouble. He's going very, very slowly indeed. 8th position. Is he going to fail to finish as he did in Brazil and Monaco, and he didn't even start in Phoenix? Martin Donnelly touring there, or looking as though he was touring. I'll be able to let you know later. He's in 8th position, or was, and that's giving, of course, the opportunity, and he certainly, there's a fire at the back, and that's giving Stefano Modena the opportunity to move up a place into 8th position, with Martin Donnelly certainly out of the Canadian Grand Prix.
Al limite, certo. Anzi perderà piano piano cercherà di risparmiare la meccanica, perché arrivare sul traguardo anche con 2 secondi di vantaggio, come del resto è successo a Monte Carlo, certo, è importante vincere, e lui lo sa bene questo. Dunque,
intanto al 60° passaggio sta per concludersi il 61°, Senna, Piquet a 27,3, Mansell a 3 secondi e 3 da Piquet, Prost a 4 secondi e 8 da Mansell, Berger a 6 secondi e 1 da Prost. La cosa curiosa è che il computer continua a essere, intanto vedete che si ferma, ad essere tarato su Berger, per cui cancella la classifica non quando passa Senna, che è primo, ma quando passa Berger, che è primo ma penalizzato di 1 minuto. Ecco, a questo punto, come avevo detto all'inizio, purtroppo l'acqua che aveva bagnato la pista alla fase iniziale, che quindi ha rallentato i tempi, fa sì, come dicevamo, che questo Gran Premio del Canada si sia protratto oltre il tempo previsto, appunto a causa della pioggia. Siamo perciò costretti a cedere la linea a Roma in tempo utile per rispettare gli impegni in Mondovisione per il campionato mondiale di calcio, che prevede alla 21 la partita Brasile-Svezia. Le fasi finali vi saranno proposte nell'intervallo della partita Brasile-Svezia. Comunque possiamo continuare fino a quando la linea verrà interrotta ovviamente dalla regia di Roma, e la parte restante della corsa la potrete vedere successivamente, come vi dicevamo, nell'intervallo della partita Brasile-Svezia, mentre per quel che riguarda il telegiornale delle 19:45, che non avete potuto vedere proprio perché vi è stata offerta la continuazione della diretta di questa gara, le ultime notizie del TG2 le potrete avere alle 23 circa, dopo la partita in questione. Al 62° passaggio Senna ha un vantaggio di 41 secondi e 2 nei confronti di Berger, un vantaggio che vediamo a titolo di curiosità in quanto Berger occupa tuttora la 5ª posizione ed è preceduto da Piquet, Mansell, Prost, e vogliamo vedere adesso il passaggio sul traguardo, appunto quale è il distacco di Piquet su Senna, che comunque ha girato in 1:23,7, quindi non ha assolutamente rallentato. Piquet anzi ha girato in 1:24 netti ed è a 27 secondi e 3 da Senna. Mansell a 2 secondi e 1, Prost a 5 secondi da Prost a 5 secondi da
Amazing to think that, Alan, that Nigel Mansell could take 2 seconds off last year's lap record under these conditions.
Yeah, well, it just goes to show the amount of downforce that these cars are generating, and the normally aspirated cars, we're now travelling with Stefano Modena in the Brabham.
All over bar the shouting as far as victory is concerned, but it's a long way off being all over bar the shouting as far as second place is concerned. There is Cathy being passed by Piquet, now being passed soon by Nigel Mansell. Nakajima is yet to be caught. Nigel running very wide, trying very hard indeed.
Yes, and that was onto the marbles, and he did well to hold that, Mansell, in trying to get round the back marker then. He slightly lost concentration, went a little bit wide, and that was very close to disaster, but it was well held. You saw just how loose the car got when he got onto that stuff. And Alain Prost also has responded to the theoretical clock challenge coming from Berger, and at the moment suspending him off against the clock.
As you look at Nelson Piquet, well, all his experience, all his craftsmanship, all his determination, and the best that he can give the Benetton Ford is there now, and Mansell held up by Cathy and Nakajima, and of course Piquet's passed both of them, and Prost is now starting to close on Mansell because he was being held up by Nakajima, who he has gone past. Now you see again what James was talking about. That granulated look on the circuit is the marbles. That is rubber, little rubber balls that have worn off the tyres. Piquet, Cathy, and Mansell furiously shaking his fist at Cathy. Move over, let me through. And Cathy does it, and Mansell really gets on the loose stuff and almost gets it sideways.
Yes, and I'm afraid Mansell rather lost his rag there and very nearly put it into the barrier. He was shaking his fist in what I'd call an over-agitated way at Alex Caffey, and then when he did go past him, once more, same place, he put it a wheel on the dirt, got very crossed up, but I think he's probably got an overdose of adrenaline pumping around at the moment, and that certainly would have equipped him well to catch it. Oh, really razor sharp, but it certainly hurt. Caffey has really put back his challenge on second place to Nelson Piquet. That traffic has hurt Mansell, and Piquet has been able to show them a clean pair of heels, if I can get that one out.
Now Mansell's got the problem with Briard. He's passed him now, and Prost has got the problem. But race order on lap 65, with Ayrton Senna, of course, continuing to lead. And it's Piquet still in second place. Well ahead now in comparative terms of the two Ferraris, and Prost is right up with Mansell. You saw the second car go through. Piquet. Berger is still in 5th position. Derek Warwick is still in 6th place. Martin Donnelly is out of the race. 7th is Stefano Modena. 8th is Alex Caffey, which is obviously why he was reluctant to move over.
And fast and furious it is for everybody except Senna, for the cars in the top 6, because whilst Berger is some halfway round the circuit away from this battle, he's actually in it because of this 60-second penalty. He needs to race on the road, remember. But whilst he has been chasing Prost to try and get in amongst this group, he's put up a new lap record, faster than Mansell's lap record. It's now down to 122.6, but he is actually losing ground on the road to Prost, and that can only be because he's having more trouble with the traffic. Berger is lapping a little bit quicker, but the delays in the traffic have hurt him. So it's a little bit yo-yo, the Berger situation, because he's got back markers over the other side of the circuit. These people have had a lot of trouble with back markers, particularly Mansell with that group just now. And so the Berger chase is all changing lap by lap.
Are you still with us? I think James is with us to explain it all. Berger's on one side of the circuit, but still right up with the battle between Nigel Mansell in 3rd place, Alain Prost in 4th position. There is the second place man, number 20, Nelson Piquet, going through, and he is now on his 67th lap in this 70-lap race, and he's coming up to lap Stefano Modena, who is in 7th position. So the second man lapping the 7th man, and the race order is still Senna leading, Piquet second, in 3rd position Mansell, 4th is Prost, 5th is Berger, 6th and lapped of course is Derek Warwick, 7th is number 8 in the blue and white Brabham, ahead of Nelson Piquet here. Stefano Modena in 8th position. In the arrows is Alex Caffey. Down to the danger corner, and of course Modena is holding Piquet up here, no doubt about that. Modena with V8 Judd power, Piquet with V8 Ford power, and Nelson needs to get past. He goes past on the outside. Modena waves his hand to indicate to Nelson Piquet that he should pass on the right, and you look straight down the exhaust pipes and see that fiery red flame of Nelson Piquet's Ford V8 engine spent gases, and Piquet really flying now. He has only got 2 laps to go after the one that he is on. He's going to get 6 points if he stays there, and it's a long time since Nelson Piquet finished as well up as that. He's actually had 19 second places before in his career, most of which of course were either with Brabham or Williams. Those were his glory years, because his time with Lotus was not good.
Sorry, mate, but I'm sure that fiery red flame was the rear light. Yes, I think the exhaust is behaving normally, and it was just his rear light, which of course for the wet race was on, but it's dried out.
Thank you, James. We'll let you know. My apologies, everybody. The old adrenaline's getting on top of me. And no wonder, because look at Modena now, with Mansell behind him, which is giving Prost the opportunity to close up. So, Mansell in 3rd position. We see Modena now, and we don't see any rear light or fiery gases or anything from Nigel Mansell's V12 Ferrari engine as he pulls rapidly away from the Brabham Judd. And Senna now is coming through to complete his 68th lap and start his last but one.
a little piece of professionalism that by Mansell, if he did it deliberately, because it appears he switched his rear light off, and the trouble that the Ferrari have had this season with the alternator with the electrics, I would have thought that's very professional driving to have it switched off and not load their rather suspect electrical system any more than is absolutely necessary once the wet run is gone. Prost, I notice is still on, but taking professionals into quite heavy limits to think of that. Prost may not have thought of it. And Berger has now closed up, still knocking this lap record down. Another new lap record for Berger. 1 minute 22, very easy 1.222. And he's now only a second behind Alan Prost. So Berger still in 5th place, but threatening.
What a pity they aren't all together from our visual point of view. But here is the potential, virtually certain winner, Ayrton Senna, coming through to start his 70th and last lap of the Canadian Grand Prix, having won in 1988. Having failed to win last year only because his Honda engine let go at the critical moment in the closing stages of the race. Senna at Monaco, the previous Grand Prix, led from the green light until the checkered flag, and he is going to have had a similarly commanding race here in Canada. He's on his last lap now. There is Roland Brunschreider in the inset, the man who starts the races, the clerk of the course, the Belgian, and Senna has driven a copybook race.
Yes, a very straightforward win for Ayrton Senna. Senna once Berger put himself out of the action by jumping the start. Berger, of course, remember, still leads Senna on the road, but of course Senna has had no reason to chase him. And I thought Senna certainly, let's say he changed his tires conservatively in letting the road dry a bit more than necessary, and probably not the quickest way, but nobody else apart from Berger, who that got in the lead and got him away from Senna. He changed even him a little bit late, but earlier than Senna, and that gave him the advantage. And then it was all plain sailing for Senna. Berger, meanwhile, has battled away, but the big battle has been for second place. At the moment, Piquet holds it, and looks like doing so, the two Ferraris, but can Berger catch him on the road? And of course, this we can never see until we work it out from the results on the stop watch.
Well, Ayrton Senna approaches the finishing line to win his 23rd Grand Prix. There is the official holding out that checkered flag. Senna is almost within sight of it now. He's down through the Olympic rowing strip, through the S-bend, and he's well ahead, and Ayrton Senna goes over the line to win his 23rd Grand Prix in the McLaren Honda here at Canada. But who is going to be second? Who is going to be third? Who is going to be fourth? And there is Gerhard Berger, and we've got to work it out on the clocks before we know where he is, although he looks to me to be going slower at this particular point. No. Well, I would love to look in the closing stages at the battle between Piquet, Mansell and Prost. We're looking at an absolutely empty circuit, except for Gerhard Berger flying round on his own there. And he may finish in 5th position, which is where he was when this lap started, or he may finish higher up. So, Ayrton Senna has won the Canadian Grand Prix, no doubt about that, and we've already seen Gerhard Berger finish ahead of Senna on the road. But the question is, where is Senna in the race? And here it is. Here is the news. Gerhard Berger has moved up into 4th position, 3/100ths of a second ahead of Alain Prost. What an amazing finish.
No confusion. Senna is the winner. He's really delighted with that one.
Absolutely, indeed.
His 99th Grand Prix, Ayrton Senna. His 23rd victory. So, the rest of the cars coming home. The order, we think: Senna, Piquet, Mansell, Berger, Prost. Warwick gets that point for Lotus this time. Modena, Caffey, Bernard, Capelli, Nakajima. So Senna the winner. Slowed right down at the end. In fact, the victory margin just 10.5 seconds. Well, John, we saw Jean Alesi have a very big accident. Everyone's been predicting that Alesi would finally shunt in a Formula 1 car, and it really was a problem of a novice. Ron Dennis talking to to Gerhard Berger. Plenty of Brazilian flags here, presumably connected to Brazilian fans.
Yeah, talking about Alesi's accident, really that was a lot of enthusiasm, a lack of judgment and a little bit of inexperience in his part to try and do what he did there. Really was impossible. It was never going to work. Even when Nannini did it, he shouldn't have tried to do it. Senna did do it, but much further down the track, and he was able to get it under control and back onto the dry line before he was heavily on the brakes. But I think for Jean Alesi, that'll be a very memorable lesson. And as you say, many people have been anticipating this confidence, almost overconfidence that he's been displaying in a car. It may now check that, and no bad thing.
Look at Senna. He is absolutely delighted with that success.
And he's entitled to be. That was an absolute copybook victory. He drove the perfect, that's the definitive Grand Prix victory. And as I said earlier, the purple patch that Senna might, well, in my opinion, be now coming into, the maturity that sometimes has been seen to be lacking, impetuosity when he's been overtaking people, particularly slower people, in misjudgments that one would not assume that he would make. Maybe now we're now in the period of Ayrton Senna's Formula One career, we're going to see something even more remarkable.
Senna, Piquet, Mansell, Berger, Prost and Donnelly, that is the top six. Warwick, I should have said, in sixth place. Well, a fan congratulating Ayrton. Talking to his mechanics and engineers. The Mexican Grand Prix, the next race in 2 weeks' time. We'll be live flag to flag on Eurosport, John and myself. There's Modena, Caffey, Bernard, Capelli, Nakajimi and Suzuki. So it's goodbye from John and myself.
I think conditions were difficult for everybody. Slippery with the wets, and then with the slicks, still with the circuit quite slippery, very difficult to judge your pace, your braking points. Of course, to overtake slow cars, as soon as you go a little bit offline, the tires would just lose completely the grip. I had a first gear broken on my pit stop, so from there on, from quite early in the race on, I had no first gear. And I was very concerned more than anything that this first gear would compromise the gearbox later in the race, the other gears, but fortunately the car went to the finish line altogether.
The trouble was, as soon as you go offline to overtake, it can take maybe one lap or even a lap and a half before you get good grip back. And a few drivers were very good, they moved offline, but a few other drivers, they just stayed right on the line and forced you offline, and it spoilt the race at the end a little bit.
Ayrton Senna's 23rd Grand Prix victory here in Canada, with Nelson Piquet in second place, Nigel Mansell third and Gerhard Berger fourth, in spite of that 60-second penalty at the start. 3/100ths of a second ahead of Alain Prost in fifth position, with Derek Warwick in sixth place. And in the Drivers' Championship, Ayrton Senna is now 12 points ahead of Gerhard Berger, with Alain Prost in third place, Jean Alesi fourth, Nelson Piquet in fifth position, and a tie for sixth between Riccardo Patrese and Thierry Boutsen. McLaren now lead the Constructors' Championship by 29 points, but it's a new second-place constructor, Ferrari, who have moved ahead of Williams, with Benetton